Hello chess lovers, Soren here, and in this video I would like to share with you an interesting game from 1934 Zurich International Chess Tournament. With the white pieces playing Max Euwe, who would become world chess champion only a year later, and his opponent is former undisputed world chess champion Emanuel Lasker, who reigned the chess world for 27 years. In 1934, Lasker accepted the invitation to participate at Zurich International Chess Tournament. The reason was money. He lost his property in Germany and was forced to flee after the Nazis came to power. Zurich 1934 was the strongest event of the year, and playing 15 rounds in 15 days was a real challenge for a 65-year-old Lasker. Alexander Alekhine won the tournament, followed by Max Euwe and Salo Flor tied for second, third. But before starting our game, as usual, would like to warm up your brain. Please take a look at this position and try to find the mating combination for black. I will wait for your answer in the comment section. Back to our main board, and without further ado, let's go for our game and see what happened on the board. This game was played in round 1 and Euwe opened up with d4. Lasker responded with d5, c4, e6. We have the queen's gambit declined, knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, knight d7, e3, c6, knight f3, bishop e7, queen c2, black castles kingside, a3, rook e8, rook c1, d takes c4, bishop takes c4, and once the d5 square is freed, we have knight d5, after which we also see the exchange of dark squared bishops on e7 and knight e4. Now comes knight f6, knight g3 and c5. Opening up the c file for white's heavy pieces looks adventurous, but black hopes to plug it with bishop d7, bishop c6. Here white castled kingside, after which we have c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight b6, bishop a2 and rook b8. A bit strange looking move. Instead of rook b8, going for straight development of the light squared bishop looks more natural, but in our game we have rook b8. Now comes e4, rook d8, rook d1. Both players are placing their rooks on open files, after which finally we have bishop d7, e5 and knight e8. Although playing knight d5 looks active, but in here Lasker made an interesting decision and played knight e8, keeping this d5 square for the b knight. Now comes bishop b1. Already white is creating some nasty threats. We have g6, queen e4, bishop a4, b3, bishop d7, a4. With this last move, white created a hole on b4, and later we will see how black will use that fact. Knight d5 was played, bishop d3, rook c8. Finally, yes, black is moving away his rook from that dubious looking b8 square with bishop c4, bishop c6, knight takes c6 and b takes c6. Euwe once said that Lasker loved to imbalance middle games, but this move is not only imbalancing, but is the best. The natural rook takes c6 leaves white with a nice centralized position after queen g4 and knight e4. That's why in our game after knight takes c6 we have b takes c6. Now comes rook d3, knight b4. Yes, we have a hole on b4 and the knight is occupying that square. Rook c7. Meanwhile, white wants to organize his attack on the king side. h4 is on the board, rook d7, h5, queen g5, but yes, black's king side is very solid. Rook e1, rook d4, h takes g6, h takes g6, queen e2, and rook d2. So far so good. The players had equal chances, but it was in here that Max Euwe made a mistake and played queen f1. Yes, he wants to keep the queens alive and wants to go for a win, but this is a mistake. It was better to play queen e3 and go for an endgame, which probably would have ended up in a draw. But in our game after rook d2 we have queen f1, which steps into this venomous knight c2 move. Black simply wants to lure away the rook, which is protecting the pawn on e5, and win it. That's why Euwe played knight e4, counterattacked black queen, thinking that the pawn on e5 is untouchable because this can allow white to win black queen. But Lasker's answer was shocking. Believe it or not, but he captured on e5 and allowed knight f6 check. Knight f6 check is on the board, after which black queen munched that knight. Queen takes f6, rook takes f6, and knight takes f6, although capturing on e1 is also playable, but in our game we have knight takes f6. That queen sacrifice considered to be stunning at that time. Against the queen, black managed to get a rook, a knight, and a pawn, and taking into consideration the fact that white queen is passive and black rooks are very dominant, black actually has an advantage. Let's see what's going to happen next. Here we have rook c1. Well, the engine suggests rook e2 and allow rook d1, after which, although in the end game black has an extra pawn, but according to the engine this could have been better for white. But in our game we have rook c1, after which white is starting to face serious problems. Now comes knight e4, bishop e2, knight d4. Black knights are simply dominating the position, after which we have knight takes f2, queen c4, knight d3, rook f1, knight e5, and after queen b4 we have knight takes f3. Yes, black is also managing to weaken white's king side, after which white king is becoming very vulnerable. Knight e2 check is on the board, king h2 and knight f4 check, after which white king returned on the first rank. By the way, playing king g3 is not a good idea because of this g5, and black is managing to create mating threats. That's why after knight f4 check we have king h1 and rook d4. Queen e7, king g7. Yes, this time black is freeing the 8th rank for the rook. Queen c7. Meanwhile, white queen is trying to create some technical problems for black, but black's attack is irresistible. Rook e1, after which we have rook g5. Black is taking under control the g file, and already there are some very nasty threats. Queen takes c6 was played a desperate attempt, but after rook d8, Euwe resigned. The threat is rook h8 checkmate, and all white can do is to suffer heavy losses in order to prevent checkmate, but in this case the endgame is hopeless for white. That's why after rook d8 we have a resignation. A very beautiful final queen sacrifice by Emanuel Lasker, which I hope that you enjoyed greatly. Thanks for watching. If you liked this game, give the thumbs up. For more games, consider subscribing to my channel. Also, press the bell button to get notified about new uploads. I will see you in my next video.